He is the most painted figure in all of Western art. His face is instantly recognizable on church walls, in museums, and in millions of homes around the world. But this man probably never existed. For centuries, we've created Jesus in our own image. Europeans painted him as a European, Ethiopians depicted him as an Ethiopian, and in modern America, he often looks like a handsome, gentle school teacher with a beard. But what if we could strip away 2,000 years of art and tradition? What if we could use history, science, and forensic anthropology to build a profile of what a first-century Jewish man from Galilee would actually look like? That's our mission today. This isn't about faith, it's about facts. We are opening a 2,000-year-old cold case to find the real face of Jesus. First, we have to understand where the popular image came from. The long brown hair, the full beard, the fair skin. None of it comes from the Bible. In fact, the Bible is completely silent on Jesus' physical appearance. The image we know today began to form around the 4th century. As Christianity became the religion of the Roman Empire, artists needed a way to depict Jesus. They borrowed from their own culture. They gave him the robes of a Roman philosopher and the features of their own gods, like Zeus or Apollo, powerful, bearded, and majestic. This image became the standard. It was a symbol of divine power. But it was an image of a Greco-Roman god, not a Galilean carpenter. The Bible gives us only one crucial clue, and it's a negative one. In the Garden of Gethsemane, Judas had to identify Jesus to the soldiers by kissing him. Why? Because in a crowd of his own disciples, Jesus looked average. He was unremarkable. He didn't stand out. So, our first forensic conclusion is simple. Jesus looked like a typical man of his time and place. To find his face, we have to go there. Our investigation begins with the skull. In 2001, a team led by forensic anthropologist Richard Neve did exactly this. They obtained 1st century Semitic skulls found in the region around Jerusalem. These were the skulls of Jesus' contemporaries. Using forensic techniques called cranial morphing, they created a 3D model of a typical male skull from that time. This skull is our foundation. It tells us the underlying structure of the face. A broad jaw, a prominent brow, and a wider nasal aperture than you'd see in a typical European. Next, skin tone. What color was a 1st century Galilean's skin? We can look at two sources, historical art and modern genetics. Roman art from that period, like the Fuma mummy portraits from nearby Egypt, depicts people from the region with dark olive-toned skin and dark eyes. Genetically, people from the Middle East have skin that is rich in melanin to protect against the harsh desert sun. The idea of a pale-skinned Jesus is a biological and historical impossibility. He was a man who worked outdoors in a hot climate. His skin was dark. His eyes were almost certainly brown. Now, the hair. This is where things get interesting. Paul, one of the most important early Christian leaders, wrote in a letter to the Corinthians, "Does not nature itself teach you that if a man wears long hair, it is a disgrace to him?" Paul was writing to a church in Greece, where long hair on men was associated with pagan cults. For a Jewish man of the time, short, well-kept hair was the norm. Roman descriptions of Judean men and art found in a 1st century synagogue all depict men with short, curly black hair. So, the long flowing locks, another artistic invention. We should be picturing short, dark, curly hair, and a beard. Yes, for a Jewish teacher in that culture, a beard was a sign of maturity and dignity. Finally, his physique. Jesus wasn't a delicate, ethereal figure. He was a tekton, the Greek word for a craftsman. He worked with wood, stone, and metal. He walked everywhere. This was a life of hard physical labor. He would have been lean, muscular, and weathered. His height, based on skeletal analysis of men from that era, he would have been around 5 feet 5 inches, tall average for the time. So, this is what science and history tell us. This is likely the face that looked out at the crowds on the Mount of Beatitudes, the face that wept at the tomb of Lazarus, the face that Judas kissed in the garden. Why does this matter? Because the image we use has consequences. For centuries, the image of a white European Jesus has been used, consciously or not, to reinforce ideas of cultural and racial superiority. It creates a barrier, making Jesus seem foreign to the very parts of the world where Christianity is now growing the fastest. But the historical Jesus, the real Jesus, breaks down those barriers. He was not white, he was not European, he was a brown-skinned Middle Eastern Jew living under oppressive military occupation. Seeing him accurately doesn't diminish him, it makes him more real. It grounds him in the dirt and dust of the world he came to save. It reminds us that his message wasn't for one culture or one race, but for everyone. Perhaps the most powerful thing about his appearance is that he looked like the people who were overlooked, the people who were colonized, the people who were considered other, and maybe that's the whole point.